Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Angelos.
And I'm Mo.
So Mo, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You've just spent a good couple of weeks in Cuba.
I have. Yep.
So we thought we would record a short episode all about Wi-Fi connectivity, or rather the lack of it, in Cuba, the country, not the nightclub, and how Mo found it, especially from the point of view of running a business. So Mo, what's the deal? Surely there's 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi all over Cuba, right?
Well, before we went out there on holiday, everyone was saying, there's no internet and, there's no phone signal and all this kind of thing. And I was like, it can't be that bad. There's got to be. So I was pretty confident about it. But I got there and got a text through from my phone. I was like, okay, this is EE, let me know kind of how much it's going to cost. Probably going to be £3 or £5 a day, which is what it usually is in Europe or in the US. And it was £50 for 50 megabytes of data, which I don't know how technical people are, but that's not a lot really. I don't think you could do much probably with 50 megabytes of data. So I think a typical phone kind of package comes with like 5 or 10 gigs or 20, I think mine is 20 gigs. But
Mo, why is this so important to you? Why do you need that connectivity?
Well, this is it. And it was at that point, I think I realised, oh no, it's not going to be that easy. But then I was like, there's going to be Wi-Fi, cafes and bars and things like that. And we flew into Havana, so we were in sort of the main city. And there just wasn't.
But you needed to check back home because what's the urgency behind that?
Well, the main urgency is that I was just worried about the business, effectively. Even though we spent a lot of time systemizing the business and making sure everything can run without us, and it does operate without us and when I say us, I mean myself and my business partner. So we do spend a lot of time trying to make sure everything's systemized and people are empowered to make decisions, and we've got processes in place and things like that. But there's always that sort of worrying, nagging feeling that, someone might need to get hold of me, and, what about if there's a decision that needs to be made? And it shouldn't even have really been that bad, because obviously my business partner, James, was here running the show, and other business partners in the development business were all around. But I think I think you're just conditioned to it now, because you sort of every day you've got connectivity, you've got Wi-Fi, you're on WhatsApp, you're on email, you're just used to it. So it's just weird not having it. And it was weird to start with, definitely. And there was that nagging concern. And I've split it into 3 stages, right? So stage 1 is worry. So it was sort of worry, fearing the worst. Oh no, what about if this has happened? What about if this, what about if there's not enough money in this account? And what about if we need to do this? Or what about if someone needs to get hold of me? Or, what about if, there's a customer complaint, or one of the investors needs to get hold of me, or something. All of those things is sort of go through the worst case scenario in your head. So that was the first stage. Then it's sort of on to, after about 4 or 5 days, is the acceptance and realization that actually you can't get it. So the situation in Cuba, I should explain, you can get Wi-Fi in the local plazas, which is like the town square, and also in like hotel lobbies you can get Wi-Fi, but you're connecting to a hotspot. So you then have like a scratch card, like a phone top-up, pay-as-you-go top-up scratch card. So you connect for like an hour or whatever, and you just pay a couple of quid for that. So you can get it. It's not that you can't get it, but it's not as readily available. And we were traveling a lot as well. We traveled right kind of across Cuba, or around and down. So there was a lot of times actually that you couldn't even get to a plaza or to a hotspot. So
so in the 3-4 days, Mo, were you able to relax, or was it in the back of your mind constantly, what if something's going wrong with the business? Does it need me to check the accounts? Or, maybe there's an issue that they need me for? Or did you accept that actually life goes on without you?
I think there's various levels of worrying, and it's not it's a worrying that's sort of just there, and you're conscious of it. It's not like you're paralyzed that you can't do anything else. You're just sort of very conscious that actually you're completely cut off. But yeah, I suppose rather than, maybe worry is not the right word, it's more just thinking about it. It was actually like you'd be thinking about something and then you'd be like, what about that? And not being able to do anything about it.
Did you feel guilt for being on holiday?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think I feel guilt. I think I felt guilty because I think everyone has, opportunities to take equal holiday. So we're quite good like that. And James, my business partner, goes away.
No, in terms of
The team, you mean?
as in, you would rather from a personal point of view, because obviously you want to spend time with your friends and your family, but part of you felt, I wish I could be back, not necessarily because of the work, but just making sure things are running okay. Or do you feel that you had adequate systems and processes in place? You can trust your team, you can let go for 2 weeks.
I think so. I have complete trust in the team, and I think I knew that there were enough systems and processes in place. I think that probably what it was is that I identify so much with the work that I do that if you asked anyone, what am I all about and what do I love doing and what's part of my identity, like most people would probably say work. So when you don't do that, you're then sort of like questioning who you are, like, or what else am I? If I'm not work, what else do I do? And it wasn't that deep or like existential, but it was a bit like that. It was a bit like, well, I really like what I do. I spend a lot of time doing it. When you take that away, what else is there and what else have I got? And that's really good because then it makes you think, well, actually I have to make conversation and I have to like really enjoy, living in the moment, and it's really spiritual, but actually it is just enjoying what you're doing. And we like had amazing like fun swimming in waterfalls and things like that. And you actually just enjoy that for what it is rather than,
Gotta put it on Instagram.
Well, exactly, and there's plenty of time to put it on Instagram when you're back. But I think that's what it makes you do. It makes you just sort of
be in the moment.
Yeah, be much more in the moment, which was really nice. And eventually, probably 5 or 6 days in, we went for 12 days. So sort of nearly halfway through, I probably got to a point where, and actually halfway through, I did check in just for an hour. And once I'd done that, it was then. I could then unwind, and I think that was the point at which I was confident that everything was going all right. There wasn't going to be anything.
So halfway through, you checked in, you realised the whole world hadn't burnt down without you.
Yeah,
they're probably doing better without you.
Absolutely, yeah, much better. Yeah.
So you could just switch off even more and relax and go, actually, my team's getting on with it, as I knew they would. Really, yeah,
absolutely. And I think so. We mentioned this before, but James and I went to a wedding in May last year, and leading up to that was like the first time that we've both been out of the country, away and not around for like an extended period of time. And we put a lot of work into making sure that the business was set up at that point to be able to cope without us. So at an operational level, we knew that it would be fine, and it was. And this time I knew it would be fine. It's just, I think it was more about, like what you fill your day with. When you spend your days doing work and thinking about the business and working on the business, and you've actually got the ability to react to anything, or if you've got a new idea, you can implement it. When you've got that and you've got into the habit of doing that every day, when you don't have that, you're then like, but I've got this idea and I want to just discuss this with someone, and I want to check on this, and I want to drive this forward, and I want to make sure this person knows that this is the priority. When you don't have that, it's a bit weird.
So now you've come back, do you feel that your day's just filling up with crap again?
I'm a totally changed man. Angelos. No. It is. I'm very, very conscious of like how I'm spending my time, and I've already noticed that even the few days I've been back and what I've been filling my day with, and I need to just be a lot more strict with that, I think, and a lot more, because time's the only thing we've mentioned it before on this podcast, like time is the only asset, right? Everyone's got the same amount of hours in the day. When we recorded the podcast with Nicole Bremner, it's one of the things she said around, we asked her, how do you get so much stuff done? Because she's sort of omnipresent on social media, as well as running development companies and doing all these other things and doing training and doing speaking and writing a book. And we were like, how do you fit it all in? And she was saying, everyone's got the same amount of hours in the day. It's an amazing team she's got. It's how systemized the business is. It's the business partner she works with. I think she's very good at sort of controlling her time and making sure she's focusing on the right things. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I feel like I've learned a bit more over the last couple of weeks. Actually, a good example, something I was going to mention, was when I got this hour of internet, the first bit I only went on for about 10 or 15 minutes because we were going out for dinner. And so I went on, and it's amazing when you've only got a limited amount of time what you ignore and what you focus on. So I scrolled through all my WhatsApp messages. I picked up a couple, picked up one from you, and then just spoke to James and a couple of others, and then just really quickly whizzed through my emails. You just completely ignore anything that looks remotely like junk. Whereas when you're here and you've got like time and Wi-Fi and all of that, you might even just read it and you open it, be curious, but there you just ignore it. It's amazing. It's super efficient. So that was really interesting. And you just focus on what things you need to reply to, or what you need to do, or what you need to say to sort of drive the business forward. Or actually, it's a really good prioritization thing. So that's one of the things I'm going to try and do, is spend more time sort of chunking up the review activity of, say, reviewing emails. So just doing, and I've heard people do this before, where they, just review emails 3 times a day, and you don't just have your whole day where you've got emails trickling in. You actually bunch it up. And you say, okay, well, 9 to 10, I'm going to go through them. 12 to 1, I'm going to go through them, and then at 4 or whatever.
Can I just jump in there, Mo, very quickly? So I met someone earlier, and they said they had over 100 emails a day.
Right.
I was really surprised by that, because maybe I get about 10 emails a day, probably because I'm not as popular as him. But it's whenever I get crap coming in, whether it's relevant or not, I unsubscribe. Yeah. Just get rid of it. Yeah. Don't need it. And if you build up that habit over a few months, your inbox will just drop massively. And then the emails that do come in are actual, real, genuine, decent emails that need action, as opposed to just, there's a 5-legged dog suddenly appeared on the scene. All this kind of crap. So I think if it's a constant process of unsubscribing, you get rid of a lot of crap very quickly. I think you're right, and I think the other thing, probably the distinction there is, I get copied into a lot of things for the business, and because we've got a few business partners and sort of like 8 staff now between full-time and part-time, you generally will get copied into things as well, which you want to be copied into, but they don't need your action. And I think just quickly reviewing those is probably part of my day as well. And that's the bit that I could chunk up. But yeah, completely with the spam, I think it's just about staying on top of it. And that's something I'm not done at the moment. I need to just unsubscribe from all of the stuff I get. I mean, when I went on honeymoon with my wife to Gran Canaria,
I'm glad you went with your wife.
As opposed that would have been very interesting.
Really awkward.
And it's constant Wi-Fi. It's constant network and whatever else. And it's a good and a bad thing. And when
it's a gift and a curse, you might say.
That's a really good philosophy. It really is. It is a gift and a curse, because mobile phones are absolutely a phenomenal bit of technology. You have the world's information at your fingertips 24 hours a day for free. But the curse is that we're always connected. So like you said earlier, the working day is dragged on. It doesn't finish at 5 and you go home and spend time with your kids and your family and you have good quality time. It's, Instagram, Facebook, shiny. It's constant.
And it's tricky, because on the other hand, what Nicole said and what I say, what we say, building your personal brand and doing that, it does require you to be active on social media and to post and things like that, and potentially outside of like the normal working day. So it's a balance, isn't it, between maintaining a presence and building a brand and actually having some off time, you might call it. So I think Lucy and I are going to try and do I'm going to say try, because it's not going to be easy, sort of like after 8 o'clock, just like no phones after 8 o'clock. And again, I've heard of people that do this and they put their phones in a box or in another room or whatever. But I think it's important, because otherwise you come back from work and you have dinner and you've got your phones at dinner, and then you've got your phones after dinner, and then you go to bed and you haven't really talked. And
you're making love, you got your phone, checking in.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of checking in.
It's no good.
How are you feeling? I don't know if there's an emoji for that. Yeah. Well, there probably is, actually. We won't go into that. It's a family podcast. So I think that's on a serious note. Little things like that, little hacks like that, I'm quite keen to explore, even if it's just testing it to see how it works. I think it's quite cool.
If I can ask them 3 things that you'll be doing differently post Cuba.
Okay, so I'm actually going to schedule more holiday with and actually try and disconnect like it in chunks. So maybe, because it's, apart from Cuba, it's unrealistic to expect to go anywhere and not have that kind of connectivity, like capability at least. So I think things like, so normally when I go to Europe on a holiday, I'll just sign up for like the data things. It's like £3 a day. It's like, that's 20 quid for a week or whatever of ability to use your own data package and your own bundle out there. So I think I'm just going to not do that. So then if I do need to use the internet, it can only be when you're at a hotel or at a cafe or something like that. So it's not just all the time. So that's one thing. And then also just having some just switching off time and maybe just check it like once a day or whatever, or once every other day, and just try and enjoy the holiday a bit more. So I think that's one thing. Then the other thing is using my phone in chunks during the day to allow for periods of focused work. So I think I've done this before and it's worked really well, particularly when I've been working in London and there hasn't been any sort of distractions in the office, and I've been able to say do 3 hours without checking my phone, and then you check your phone, you've got like 20 WhatsApp messages or whatever and a load of emails, but actually you then can review them all in about 5 minutes, decide what you need to respond to and action, and then it's done, and then that's probably half an hour to an hour of work rather than 4 or 5 hours of very bitty responding and things like that. So that's another thing, chunking up use of the phone, and finally, attempting to just have no phones after sort of 8 o'clock and before bed. It's also not good for your sleeping pattern, I don't think, to use your phone just before bed. So
yeah, I mean, if you do want to read a book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
have something a little bit less dynamic.
Or listen to your favourite podcast.
Bloody hell! Right, damn right. Forget the book. Put that book down and listen to Your Success Podcast.
No phones after 8, except to play Your Success Podcast.
Absolutely.
Which will get you off to sleep, I'm sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, then, Mo. Well, thanks for sharing your
No, cool. It was good, and I thought it's really interesting because I've never been anywhere like it where there's just not been the option, and I think stuff like that forces you to change the way you behave. And I'm not going to lie, like I did enjoy it when I got back on it, and it was you sort of get a little rush, and then you come back to the UK and you've sort of a bit overwhelming because it's just constantly on. But it was nice. It was a nice experience. I thought it'd be worth sharing. So that's our thoughts. But we want to know your thoughts on experiences on whether you could survive without Wi-Fi, and is your business really systemized enough? Drop us an email on hello@yoursuccesspodcast.com or get in touch on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram.
So thanks for listening to Your Success Podcast. Please click subscribe, leave us a review, and we look forward to your comments on the Facebook page and YouTube channel. So I've been Angelos.
And I've been Mo.
And see you again on the next exciting episode of Your Success Podcast.
You have been listening to Your Success Podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.